If you're looking for some sleek and affordable protection for the leading edge of your hood and windshield on your 2021 through 2023 F-150, then you'll want to consider the bug flector option that we have here today. Now, this made in the USA hood shield will combine an injection molded acrylic build with that dark smoke appearance and a ton of coverage in comparison to other options for right around that low $100 price point. Install is not going to involve any permanent drilling or modification, so therefore site's going to stick with a pretty soft 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter and about 30 minutes or so to complete from start to finish. But hang with us for a little bit and we'll walk you through that job later in the video. Now, as far as features are concerned, well, I would say the big appeal here with the Bug Flector 2 will be protection not only of the leading edge of your hood from rock chips and bug splatters and things like that, but also protection to things like your windshield due to the aerodynamics that this thing will provide, pushing all of those road hazards up and over the cab of your truck. Now, this option will be car wash safe and is one of the few shields on the site that does utilize physical hardware instead of some sort of automotive grade adhesive or tape, which ultimately I just feel something like this is gonna lead to a stronger, more solid connection over time. Now, on that same topic here, guys, I do wanna point out that the option that we have does include hardware, does not require any drilling, which is always a nice little thing to point out as well. Now, materials for the Bug Flector 2 will be pretty standard in the land of rock guards, wind deflectors, whatever you want to call them, and that is going to be the combination of the impact-resistant acrylic build finished off in that very dark smoked appearance. Certainly going to look great and obviously will be very durable, up to the task of handling a few rock chips and bug guts. Now, one thing I do want to point out here, guys, is that the Bug Flector 2 has been molded to really hug the lines of the 21 and newer hoods, but at the same time, I would say you are getting a little bit more material here with the Bug Flector 2. It's a little larger, so therefore maybe offering a little bit more protection at the end of the day. Again, you can kind of see how it ramps up a little bit. That's going to be key in helping to divert all of those rocks or bugs or whatever from smacking into your hood or windshield and hopefully diverting them up and over the cab here, again, due to the aerodynamics at speed. But nevertheless, guys, again, the Bug Flector 2, while offering maybe a little bit more material, still going to be very sleek, very low profile after the installation. Now, your price point here for the AVS Bug Flector 2 will come in at the very low $100 range or ballpark, making this, I would say, one of the more affordable options on the site for your newer 14th gen truck, especially when you start comparing this to other options such as the textured black Aeroskin or even the lighted Aeroskin options. Those can cost you upwards of $200 if not more. So again, keeping things in that very low $100 range, this is certainly going to be a very appealing option. But now we do want to get into the installation as promised earlier and show you guys what it takes to get this option installed on the hood of your F-150 at home. Again, this is a no drill install. You're going to utilize existing holes underneath the factory hood. That's certainly going to help make things a bit easier at the end of the day. So with that being said, expect a pretty soft 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you about 30 minutes at least to complete from start to finish. But now we're going to throw it to an American Trucks customer for a detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown. Check it out.
Now, these are the tools that you're going to need for this installation. I use some gloves here, some nice gloves that you can find at Harbor Freight or any other big box store, just to protect my hands in case there was anything sharp or the engine was hot after running it for a little bit. I also use some standard isopropyl alcohol, some paper towels, a Phillips head screwdriver, pretty standard, something that any guy should really have in his toolbox, and then of course a pin removal tool. This thing is great for removing any sort of pieces of trim, any pins that are used to install the trim, anything like that. This gets right underneath those fasteners attached to the hood from the factory, and you just push them together and it slides out nicely. It's a pretty simple installation, and those are all the tools that you really need. Hey guys, my name is Ben and welcome to the installation video of your AVS Bug Deflector Mark II. I'm standing in front of my 2021 Ford F-150 XLT. Everything on this vehicle is stock, coming directly from the factory, except the grille, of course. That's something I added aftermarket. However, that shouldn't play much into this. So one of the first things you got to do is you're going to have to pop the hood. Now, according to the instructions manual, after you've popped the hood, you're gonna have to remove some of the fasteners that attach the hood seal to the hood itself. You can see up here that you have these plastic fasteners coming up along the front and across the left and right edges of your hood. One of the best ways to do this is to just dry fit the hood, the bug deflector right on top of the hood to see which fasteners you need to remove. Now, if your hood is like mine, we're gonna be taking off the middle far left, the third one, fifth, seventh, and ninth fasteners from the center seal, and then the far right center center fastener. Now you're going to take your pin removal tool. This is something you can find at any sort of hardware shop. I found these over at Harbor Freight in the trim section. You find them, it's part of a trim removal section there. These are pretty great for removing these fasteners because they are a little tight. So I'm going to go ahead and remove them. I'm going to start at the far right here. That should pull out pretty easily. Make sure to leave the gasket, however, attached to the hood because that's still going to remain in place. You just want to remove the fasteners that align with your bug deflector. There's one removed. There's a second one removed. Just want to be really careful with getting underneath those fasteners so that you don't damage your hood seal. And just gently pry it loose, like so. And one by one, remove those fasteners. And then I'll finally, over to the far right, just remove the center fastener on that gasket. That fastener is attached to the gasket itself. Now all you're gonna do is take that bug deflector, rub off any dirt, angle it up just a little bit so that the flanges of the bug deflector line up between the hood and the hood seal, and just slowly work it in there. It's going to take a little bit of reworking, so just be patient with this. Just carefully slide everything into place. Now, what I have found while installing one of these bug deflectors, it's really important at this step to line up the holes, the pre-drilled holes on the flanges of your bug deflector. Those are these little plastic tabs that stick out. Align those with the holes of the fasteners that you just removed. All it takes is a little bit of a visual inspection and make sure that those are lined up nicely. I usually start from right to left. All it takes is to peek up and see where those holes line up so you can get an idea about what you're working with. Now that your holes are all lined up nicely and your hood seal is outside, or I guess underneath in this case, of the bug deflector, i.e. the bug deflector is between the hood seal and the hood itself, as you can see here, we're going to move on to step 4, which is locate the 4 inboard flanges. Those are going to be these right here. It's going to be in the center of your hood, and there's 4 of them. Now with your packet in this little plastic bag, you have some fasteners. There's self-tapping screws and some washers. These are what you're going to screw into those holes directly. Step 5, we're going to insert the 4 screws and washers through the rubber gasket, hood shield, and into the hood and securely tighten. So this is going to take a little bit of reworking. What I've found is the best way to do this is to just get an idea about where the hole is that you're about to drill into and slowly work in making sure just to work the lines of your gasket, the bug deflector, and the hood itself so that everything lines up nicely. Sometimes it takes a little bit of muscle to get it in there where you want it, but that's okay. So what I do is I typically take the self-tapping screw, poke it right through the hole of your gasket of the hood, and line it up through the hole of the bug deflector and directly into the hole on your hood. Now you don't need to tighten these too much at first round because there may need to be some moving around just to make sure everything is lined up and centered as you want it, but at least get them in there snug enough so that they don't come loose. All you're going to do is repeat this process 4 times for the center 4 flanges of the hood of the bug deflector. Again, I'm using that Phillips head screwdriver just to loosely put everything into place. Now that the 4 screws on the 4 center flanges of the bug deflector are screwed in place, we're going to locate the 2 outboard flanges. That's the far right and the far left over here. And in this case, we're going to insert the 2 screws with washers through the hood shield itself directly into the hood, not through the gaskets on the far right and left sides. So what I've noticed here on the far right side is that my holes are slightly off just a little bit, which means that the bug deflector might be just a little off itself. All we're gonna do is loosen up some of the 4 center screws a little bit. And we're gonna muscle over to the far right-hand side and just slide the bug deflector over just a little bit so that the holes line up a little bit better. Once this is done, we can proceed to screw in the rest of the bug deflector. Starting on the right side here, directly into the bug deflector and into the hood. And then we're going to repeat the process on the far left side with your last screw and your last washer. Now you can tighten all your screws in place so that everything is nice and secure. You don't need to make these too tight, but you want to tighten these screws in place enough so that everything is nice and snug. Now that all 6 screws are in place, we're going to slowly close the hood. But before we do that, now that your 6 screws are tightly in place and your bug deflector is secured to your hood, we're going to prepare to close the hood here. But one of the last steps that we need to do, with the engine bay at least, is to turn both of the hood bumpers counterclockwise 1.5 turns. Your hood bumpers are these little rubber hexagonal pieces on the far right and left side of the hood, or of the engine bay. So all we're going to do is counterclockwise turn them 1.5 turns. Okay. Now, of course, if we need to readjust these later, we absolutely can. But what we're doing is we're just making sure that everything fits tightly and nicely together. Now make sure your engine bay is clear of any sort of tools or parts, or maybe even these plastic fasteners that you removed. And then we're going to carefully close the shield. Watch your fingers, don't get those stuck in between. Sometimes it takes just a little bit of work. Now that your hood is closed and you've securely tightened everything to where it needs to be, the bug deflector is nice and tight in place and it's nice and centered the way you want it. The last piece on the instructions tells us to apply 4 bump-ons to the surface of the hood. Now since you're sticking something onto the hood itself, what I'm going to use is a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. You can get this at any store. And I'm just going to wipe off the areas where I want the bumpers to be put in place. Where you want them to go is where the bug deflector has the biggest potential to actually hit the paint. The last thing you want is to have your paint job ruined by something like this. So what I'm thinking about doing is applying them on the 4 corners on the center of the hood, right in the raise here. So all you're going to take is a little bit of alcohol and just nicely wipe down this area here, freed of any sort of dirt, any debris, to really help these bumpers to stick on. And once that's on, it's going to help just to remove these gloves here. And one by one, I'll add them in place. Now that the bump-ons are attached, and the installation is complete.
So wrapping this one up, guys, again, if you are looking for an affordable, relatively low profile option to help protect the hood and windshield on that newer F-150 at home, be sure to check out the Bug Flector 2, available right here at AmericanTrucks.com.